Have you ever noticed that every thought we have is conditional? It's attached to something else, and everyone. It is very rare that we have a thought that is spiritual only. This talk came about from some of Mary Baker Eddy's writing, and the one phrase that she wrote that caught my attention most was, "When mortal man blends his thoughts of existence with the spiritual and works only as God works, he will no longer grope in the dark and cling to the earth, because he has not tasted heaven." So basically what this means, as I understand it, is that our understanding of our existence, as it unfolds, as we connect with the spiritual, as we connect and blend our thoughts with spiritual, our understanding of existence unfolds to reveal more of our truth as one in God. And we begin to think in alignment with God, and at that time we realize heaven is an experience that we can choose now. We don't have to die to go to heaven. Our limiting thoughts must die, and then we can realize heaven is present. Our thinking creates our beliefs, and our beliefs create our experience, and we, somewhere along the way, choose to believe that that experience is our reality. It's a choice that we make. So on those days that you're having a really bad day, things are really rough, it's not real pleasant to realize we're choosing it. We do. We choose it because we choose to experience those things. We can just as easily choose to think differently, to think something else, to think joy and peace and love. This thinking process, we've bought into, this is the way it is. We think this way, we always have, so this is the way it must be. Well, there was a time that people thought the earth was flat. And there's still some people that think the earth is flat. Don't know. We're not going to go there. There was a time when people believed they could not fly. There was a time when communication with someone beyond shouting distance was thought to be impossible. There was a time that a lot of things were thought to be impossible until somebody thought differently. All of this stuff, this flat earth, flight, communication, all of this was thought differently on the human level. So even on the human level, even with mortal mind, thinking differently can open you to a whole new world, a whole new understanding. We're going further than that today. When we allow our beliefs of our physical mind to create our reality, we deny truth. We deny infinite possibility. We deny connection with God. We deny expression as God through us. Many times we hold tight to those the limits that our physical bodies offer as truth. We hold tight to it because that's the way we've always thought. And we ignore the truth that infinite possibilities, infinite being, infinite experience, infinite expression are available to us always. Part of that's because our minds can't think infinite. On this human level, infinite kind of makes us go, it reminds me of those cartoons where the brain starts smoking and the smoke comes out of the ear and then boom. Thinking that big is hard because we're so used to thinking so small. Mary Baker Eddy also wrote, "We cannot fathom the nature and quality of God's creation by diving into the shallows of mortal belief." That's pretty powerful and perfectly true. We cannot fathom the nature and quality of God's creation by diving into the shallows of mortal belief. This tells us that we've got to stop thinking mortal thoughts if we want to know truth, if we want to find deeper understanding. We've got to shift and start thinking spiritually. Sometimes that thought, that wondering, how do I think more spiritually, seems as big as that thought of what is infinite. Smoke comes out, boom. It's easy. It's easy. It's not that we must find a way to disprove our long-standing human beliefs. You know, that's one of the things that we get hung up on. Well, I gotta prove this wrong in order to make this right. Or I got to find a way to get rid of this thought so that I open up space for this thought. This is conditioned thinking. We've conditioned ourselves to think this way. It doesn't have to be that way. The cool thing about it, and we'll get into it more in a minute, all we have to do is let go of the thoughts that we have. Again, we'll talk about more of that in a minute. We just have to cast off the beliefs that have limited our experience. And by casting off, we have to cast off the power those beliefs have over us. I was asked one time if I could, we were at a hotel in a seminar, and we were on the second floor, and I guess I was being cocky or something because the instructor came over. I was a participant. The instructor came over and said, "Do you think you can go out there and jump off that balcony and fly?" I said, "Not yet." And that was my first experience, like, okay, maybe there's more to this. By letting go of the thought that I can't fly opens me to the possibility of flying. And if I continue to let go of old conditioned thinking, I start opening up to more of what can be. I truly believe that at some point, my belief system can get, if I work at it, it's not going to happen just like that because I believe it's not going to happen just like that. I truly believe that my belief system gets to the point where I'll be able to take flight, to walk on water, to do anything. Jesus was the example of what spiritual thinking allows. He did not limit himself according to this mortal existence. He never thought once that he couldn't walk on water. He just did. That's what spiritual thinking does for us. It's up to each of us to allow realization to show up. I can't tell you how it's going to show up for you because it's going to show up for each individual in an individual way. It's something that you connect to. You don't have to seek it out. You just let go of the things that are blocking you from receiving it and accept it. Allow it. Our human eyes, here's the key. What we have to remember, our human eyes have never seen the fullness of God. Back to infinite. We can't see it. Because as soon as we get close to what we think is the edge of God, we realize there's more. We cannot see the end of infinite. However, this does not make those limits of our humanness true. This is where faith comes in. This is the true definition of faith, in my opinion. I can't see the fullness of God right now. That doesn't mean I have to just say, okay, well then that can't be true. This over here, I can see all of it, so I got to make this my truth. We start thinking small because that bigness out there makes us start feeling a little bit out of control. That's our ego. That's our humanness feeling out of control. We are one in God. We have all of the attributes of God. So guess what? All of that infiniteness that we can't see is part of us, even though we haven't realized what it is. Now, if you think of infiniteness as space, as many people do, there might be some it's pretty scary thoughts of going out into space, never to return home. What are you going to run into? That's not what this is all about. We realize, when we tune in to truth, we realize, just like the sign says up here, God is love. Period. God is love. This infiniteness that we're talking about, this bigness, this vastness that we're talking about here, is love. There's nothing to fear. We don't have to go back into our smallness. Because we're human, we will. Don't care how far along this track we get, there's going to be something that'll draw us back in. The great thing about it is the further along this path we get, this further along this realization that we get, the shorter amount of time we're going to be in that smallness. We'll be able to pop back out of it really, really quick. This thinking, this spiritual thinking, I want to talk a little bit about why it's so difficult to figure this out. There's nearly, I haven't seen any figures lately, but the last figure I saw was nearly 8 billion people on this planet. In our human mind, we think, and this is how separation comes in. This is how we start seeing hate and fear and all of this and all these people. We see these 8 billion people as being 8 billion individual minds. They all think differently. They all think about us with the same fear we think about them, or the same hatred, or whatever the case may be. That's what we believe in our human understanding. The truth is, there is only one mind. That one mind is God. God is love. There are not 8 billion individual minds, there are 8 billion individual expressions of one mind. When we think about it that way, we realize that the basis, the foundation for every one of the people that we will ever face is based in God. It's based in love. Now, the problem is the interpretation of one mind. So in one mind, all thoughts exist. One mind, God, love, infinite. If it's already infinite, that means that every thought that will ever occur infinitely already exists. We think that these 8 billion minds have these thoughts that are coming in at random. I'm sure you have been sitting around one day, twiddling your thumbs, watching TV, whatever you're doing, cutting the grass, and a thought pops in. It's like, wow, that came out of nowhere. It was always there. It was always there. Your realization just happened to tune into it. You tuned in. We can tune in anytime we wish. Thoughts are not random. They're not random. We think that they're inspired by something else. We think that they come to us from nowhere. We think all of this stuff, but they're already there. They're already in existence. A friend of mine talked about, she was talking about memory in this case, but thoughts are very similar. She talked about this, we have this big wheel that comes out one side of our head and comes around and gets into the other. And we never forget anything, but sometimes what we're trying to remember is out here on the outside of the wheel. That's the picture I have in my mind of thoughts. They're always there. And it depends on where we are focused energetically, our thoughts, everything. That's what's going to get us to tune in. Now we can adjust this, and we'll talk about adjusting how we tune in here in just a moment. Excuse me. As humans, I'm about to skip a very important part. We look at things that are happening in this world and we wonder, how can this happen? The shootings, somebody that does some sort of racial hatred attack on somebody. You know, we see these things out here that we describe as horrible. And we wonder, okay, well, if that's going on out there, that can't be love. The initial thought, the foundation of all thought is love. It's coming from one mind. It is our human interpretation that gets things all messed up. Our human interpretation adds conditions. Every thought that we have on this human level has conditions added to it. Every one of them. Our kids just came in from Ohio. It could have been the joy of getting them here and stopped. We could have just focused on the joy. But we take that and we add, I hope they have a safe trip. I hope they make good time. I hope this all works out for them. And we start adding all of these thoughts to it, which starts adjusting what it's going to take for this experience to be joyful. When we strip it all back down, it all comes back down to love. It all comes back down to joy. And we can have that experience. If we quit adding stuff to it, that would be all we felt. But by adding stuff to it, worry comes in, fear comes in. And then it's all about, okay, when they pull in that driveway, everything's going to be good. Everything was good the whole time. We interpret things. We add things. We make things conditional. Because we are thinking with mortal mind, if you will, instead of one mind. Now the good news is, since we have learned to think with our mortal mind, it just means we are incredible learners. And since we're incredible learners, we can learn something different. Since we are such good learners, mortal interpretation will continue to be a part. We've learned it so well that even if we ace this spiritual thinking, every once in a while, we're going to be caught thinking from the mortal mind, the fear, the worry, even some of the good things, if we add conditions to it, limit us. You know, this trip from the kids coming in here, we had all of these conditions about what had to happen, so we kind of limited it. It could have been joyful the entire experience. It is our conditional thinking that causes us not to experience the beauty and the truth of God in every situation. If our thought and ultimately our experience is not loving, peaceful, and true, we are not thinking spiritually. We're not thinking with one mind, from one mind. If there are any conditions, we are not thinking from one mind. One mind contains all truth, and only truth. Truth is only love. Because truth is God, love is God, God is love. Love is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Love contains no hardship, no evil, no worry, no difficulty. Therefore, there is one experience that is true. One experience that is true. That is love. If your experience is anything other than love, it's not true. It's based on the human conditional thinking. All experiences that are not aligned with love are illusions. All experiences that are aligned with love are truth. We must turn our thoughts to those of love. We must realize love is the only experience. So to end, spiritual thinking is not something that we have to go out and work for. It's simply something that we have to allow. It's already there. Every thought, every true thought is already in one mind. We are part of one mind. Every true thought is ours. And we just have to realize it. We can shed any conditions that we've added. We can shed any mortal expectations that we've added. It's a whole lot easier to let go of something than it is to build something up. That's the good news here. We don't have to go create something new. We just have to let go of everything that's not true, that's not part of spiritual thinking. Since love, good, and truth are infinite, we need only let go of the illusions we have created. So if it's not love, if it's not good, if it's not truth, then we made something up. We can let go of that stuff and get back to the pure goodness of one mind. Last thing I want to tell you today is a quote from Michael Beckwith. He says, "Our lesson is to become so pure in our awareness and our spiritual practices, our spiritual thinking, that we create for ourselves the vibrational frequency of, I know the presence of God is responding to me moment by moment by moment." Create that vibrational frequency, that energy, that knowing that God is responding moment by moment by moment. And be sure that God is responding to spiritual thinking, not human conditional thinking. So let's close today with prayer. Father God, we are grateful for this experience we call life. Each moment of each day offers opportunity to awaken further awareness of our inseparable relationship with Spirit, with Christ consciousness, with God eternal. Each experience invites us closer to pure enlightenment and deeper understanding of our inseparable unity with God and all things. As we continue awakening more deeply to our undeniable truth, our unlimited ability, and our complete self, we ask to be guided in serving all of life wholly and mindfully. We choose to no longer live a fear-based existence, and we rise up in love and peace, which are our true powers. We effect positive change on this world through our love and our kindness for all. We recognize our oneness in God, our unity with all things. We honor the divine in each person we meet. We honor God in every moment of this life. And so it is. Amen.